Okay, well, now, where we left off, I made so that if I press spacebar, then the counter is going to set to negative 90, but we don't want that. What we really want to do is go back to your main object. By the way, always have the hotspot down below, or else it looks like he's floating on every single animation. But you're going to want to go back to his alterable values, go to the camera distance, and you're going to change this to negative 90. You can change it later, hence the fact that it's an alterable value. So, oh yeah, I'm going to show you why I made this upside down also. But first I want to move this to the top layer so you can see it. You're going to go back to this always and make so that his angle is always the angle of the main mode 7 object times negative 1. And there's a good reason for this. And I will show you. Well, actually I can't show you now. Let me just start the next thing. The basics. You should know all of this by now. When I hold the up arrow, the left arrow, right arrow, I'll walk forward too. And notice how when I do rotations I always go to the main mode 7 object. You have to do that especially, or else things won't necessarily work out. Since that's left, I'm gonna go negative 2 degrees. Since this is right, I'm gonna go positive 2 degrees. So I'll just show you how that works out really quick. Looks really nice. Now this is where the arrow comes in. As you can see, that would be me. And I'm moving around. And also, when making sprites, always go to the runtime options in the properties. It says inactive if it's too far away from the window. You always want to put that at no. And you want to uncheck destroy the object if it's too far from the frame, because that'll end in disaster. Okay, but back to this. Now, if I'm holding the up button and the position of my height is at 0, that means I'm on the ground. I'm going to do animation running. But if I'm not holding the up button and animation running is playing, then it might as well just stop. So let's see how that looks. Gives a lot better effect of making it look like it's running around. That's running smoothly so far. I guess I'll save this. Let me start on first moving this back. And I actually have 3 layers. When you, well, I'll get to that in a couple of seconds. But let me just go ahead and move on to a group called jumping. Or I'm going to tell you how to work with the heights now. Now, as you know, in Spyro games, Spyro can fly, or glide rather, but I'm going to make him fly. So I'm going to make it so that if you hold down fire button 1, that's going to be shift for me. Then my Spyro will do animation jumping, and it will add to his height position. And height positions are really, really high. So I'm going to add about 250 to his height position. And notice how this is going to be like 250 added to it like every millisecond. So I want you to take a look at how this looks. And as you see, he floated out of the screen. Now you can fix this by going back to the greater than 15 milliseconds. And you can make it so that the Z elevation will always be set to the height position plus 5,000, since 5,000 is the base. So it'll look like this now. And now you're in complete control of it. And now you can just fly around with the Spyro. But I want to make it so that when I'm not holding down this button, then I'll just swiftly go back down to the ground. So I'm going to subtract from my height position 250 if I'm not holding it down. And the animation will stay. But if my height position is lower or equal to 0, and auto values are tricky, so I always put lower or equal to. But if it's lower or equal to 0, and animation jumping is playing while I'm not holding down the button, then it will do animation change stopped. And I also forgot to fix this. Animation is playing jumping. You always have to keep this on or else it'll just keep infinitely going through the ground. So that's how that looks. If I don't hold it down, he goes right back to the ground. So if I fly around a bit with them and let him go back down and swoop right back up, that's perfect for if I want to let him collect any kind of items. And once he hits the ground, he starts running again. Now, I'm going to teach you how to fire projectiles now. Now if I press fire button 2, that's going to be control for me. And he'll do animation change fire. Fire is the animation where he shoots out a fireball, I guess I want to call it. So I'm going to go back to here. And like I said, this action point is where he aims. So this is the person, and this is his aim. So I'm going to focus this about right here so you'll be able to see it. And I'm going to go back to the event editor. Now, when animation fire is playing, he is going to launch an object, which is going to be Active Object 4. Active Object 4 is a sprite of the fire. Like I said before, you have to make smaller versions of all of your objects in order to make them 3D. So, he will, I'm sorry, not launch, but I want this to create. I want him to create this sprite at the hot spot. And the reason I want it to create is because this fire sprite has a bouncing ball movement, and bouncing ball movements, they pretty much go wherever the direction they are is looking. So I'm going to make it create from him, and I'm going to go to the direction and look in the direction of the action point, which is also his aiming. So he's looking at that and is creating. Now to turn it into actual 3D. Whenever one of these creates, I also want to lower this so I have more memory, or actually make it higher. So when I create one of those small sprites, I also want to create a big sprite along with it. And notice how I set it to layer 2, because layer 2 is where the mode 7 object is. So I'm creating it at layer 2. And I'm going to go back to always. And this is how you map objects also. So I'm going to set the x coordinate to, in this case I don't really need the z elevation, so I'm going to put x from x and y. So the x position is the small sprite and the y position is the small sprite. You can copy this simply and paste it here. All you have to do is change one letter, this x to y. Then alter value A is going to be the zoom value for the fire. I'm going to set that to the height, just as I did with the main character. X position is first, Y position is second. I'm going to make this at about 20 times, just like before, 1.01. And then I'm going to set the scale to the fire's alterable value A, which is also his scale. Now this is the really tricky part that uses up a lot of memory, but it's really important. I'm going to add this down here. If the zoom scale or alter value A is greater than 2.5, or however much memory your computer can hold before an object gets too big for the frame. If it's greater than 2.5, then the scale will set to 0. But if it's lower than that, then the scale will go right back to normal. So, let's see how this works out. And that's him shooting out fire. And it just goes in the direction that I made it face. But notice how it's in front of him and not where it should be. I'm going to fix that in part 3, but for now this is all I can do. So I'll see you guys then.